Coming up on tonight's show, I have naturopath and kinesiologist Sarah Clayton with me. Amongst other things, Sarah's going to talk to us about how she helped a chicken start chasing crickets again. Right after Sarah, we've got the chat box, and we have Mickey, the horse from New Zealand, in the chat box. He's never going to be a gold star champion, he says. He's a 70 to 80% kind of guy. Now don't go anywhere, we're going to be right back in just a moment. Welcome to the Animals Television Show, everyone. I'm your host, Romy Bueller, and another excellent episode for you coming up tonight. I have Sarah Clayton. Now, Sarah is a naturopath and a kinesiologist for the people, but she also works with animals. And tonight she's going to be talking about flower essences, hair mineral analysis, compatibility testing, and kinesiology, what they are, and when and how you would use those to help heal your animals. Right after Sarah, I have Mickey. Now, Mickey wants to apologise to his mum for being a problem child, and we'll hear all about that later. But right now, let me introduce you to Sarah Clayton. Welcome to the show, Sarah. Thanks so much for jumping in and having a chat with me tonight. Now, I know you're a naturopath and a kinesiologist for the people, but you also do some work with animals, which is what I really want to talk to you about tonight in this show. Tell us a little bit about your background with animals and how that became a part of your business.
Thanks for having me, Romy. So growing up outside of Melbourne in the Yarra Valley, I grew up on a couple of acres, and we were so blessed. Our neighbours, and in our backyard we had horses, little Shetland ponies, and we had a dog and a cat and some goats and sheep, and we were always surrounded by animals, and that real connection to the land and the animals was priceless as a child. Growing up, you know, you end up kind of moving towards cities, and you don't have the animals in your life so much, and you don't realize you're missing them until you get exposed to them again later. So coming to Queensland and being surrounded by nature again and all this wonderful healthy lifestyle we've got up here helped to reconnect me to the animal spirit, and finding out more about how they can help us with our own emotional, mental, and physical health. But in terms of the business and how I brought it in, I was stocking a range of flower essences at some local shops, and they were all custom blends that I'd made up, and I thought that I was making them for people, and I'm sure for the most part they were for people. But the feedback that I got was, people are coming in and taking these for their pets and saying really good things about them, which was amazing to hear. And, you know, from then on, I thought, right, I'm doing flower essences for animals, and they respond beautifully.
What's the history of flower essences, and do you go out and find your flowers and actually make the blend, or like what's your process with that, and how do you know what to give an animal?
So every flower has its own vibrational frequency that it runs at. And if you think of a plant as, giving that flower, and that flower has got an expression, it's got something to say, and it typically matches with an emotion. But the actual flower essences through history, they go back thousands of years. You can find transcripts from over 3,000 years ago of the Egyptians using flowers and the dew that was captured on them to heal emotional problems. But how I use them, like, you can certainly go out and make your own flower essences with a beautiful flower that you might find in nature that speaks to you in a certain way. But the way I have used flower essences for animals and people is using just the standard ranges available through the Australian bush flower essences,
Right.
bar flower essences, and desert alchemy from America. So they've been researched for decades for what exactly does this flower do vibrationally to the emotions. So if I had, say, an owner of a dog approach me and say, my dog has separation anxiety, and every time I leave the house, she's just in hysterics and I can't seem to settle her no matter what I do. I would look for a flower essence that corresponds to to separation anxiety, but it would be a blend. So you'd look at a flower for anxiety, you'd look at a flower for separation, you might look at a flower for confidence. There are hundreds of different emotions that you could look at.
Yeah, right. So it doesn't matter that you're mixing one with the other for, obviously not with the, confidence and anxiety and separation, that's kind of work quite nicely together, but you don't give separate essences for each emotion. It's all blended into one.
It's all blended based on that spirit of the animal. So every dog that's going to come and see me is going to have slightly different energy behind it, and so therefore, an essence that might be good for one anxious dog might actually not be the same for another anxious dog, because their levels of anxiety are different, the way it's presenting is different, like they might have different parts of their body that are showing up. So yeah, it would be very rare for me to prescribe just one essence. It would be a blend of essences to come together.
Does the vibration of an essence change with the different weather, drought or floods or whatever that the flowers that you're getting the essences from, receiving for their whatever the season is that they get picked to become a flower essence?
Yes, I suppose typically the flowers will bloom at a very specific time of year. And I would imagine that if that plant has been through a severe drought, that the essence would be quite different, potentially more hardy, even could be stronger. But what you really want to find is that the essence that you're getting is picked in pristine conditions, so away from pollution, where that plant is perfectly in tune with its own nature.
Yes, yeah. And so what would you use essences for? So you've got anxiety and fear and separation anxiety and those types of things. What else can you use flower essences for?
If you're having trouble getting a dog in the car, for instance, or a cat in the car, you could use flower essences to settle its nerves for, getting used to that car travel. You could use them for, say, a new animal member has come and joined the family, to make them feel that they're very much connected. So when they feel disconnected or, not disowned, but to them they might feel like they've become disowned even though they've not. So that could be useful.
And you would use that for all of the animals in the house to kind of bring that group together, or would you just use that on the new animal that's come in?
Oh, it would depend on the situation. Like the new animal that comes in would be perfectly happy, so it might not need that flower. or the new animal that comes in may actually be quite timid and could use it. So again, it would depend on the situation.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
No harm in giving the flower essences to multiple animals in the house, because you're only going to get beneficial outcomes from using it.
Yes, yes. Now, I know that cats are inherently difficult to give anything to. How do you give a flower essence to an animal, especially a cat?
So there's a couple of ways you can go about it. So you can drop it on their food or in their water dish. But if they're not drinking much, you could even place it on the back of their neck.
Right, so that's pretty easy then.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we want for cats. We want easy.
Yes. Yeah. So I would probably do both with a cat. Pop it in their water dish and on the back of their neck.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember many years ago that there was someone, I can't remember the story now, but there was someone that was driving across Australia, which for anyone that's not in Australia, that is a very long way. Sydney to Perth is about 4,000 kilometres. So it's a long distance. They were taking their dog with them, and this dog got car sick. Apart from anxiety, well, the anxiety kind of came from the motion sickness of being in the car. So there was a few things going on there, and Mum got the dog some flower essences for that, and the trip wasn't an entire breeze by any means, but it was so much better. She said it was about 70% better than what it would have been if she had just put the dog in the car and driven across the country. So they can be very useful. They're not a cure so much, are they? They're just a sort of pressing the pause button on an emotion for a little bit, or helping integrate other kind of perhaps therapies or things.
Yeah, I actually just read something about it this morning, which I thought was going to be great for this show, which kind of carries on what you've just said. But the flower essences, they work not by attacking disease or pushing things away. What they do is they flood the body with beautiful vibrations, which then allows cells to settle down and connect back to their true nature again.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Have you got any success stories that you've found? I've got quite a few myself, especially people that I send to you, because it's such a great thing, because we have so much anxiety and stress and fear and abandonment issues with a lot of animals out there. What's been your experience? Have you got any clients that have really had great success?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from more clients. It's you don't always hear back, but when I do hear from them, it's generally that, wow, I've got, an animal that was too scared to even come and sit next to me on my bed, and now she's next to me purring, which is just beautiful. And
Yeah.
yeah, and similar stories like that. Just they've gone from having, a highly anxious, stressed dog to suddenly she or he has turned a corner and is a lot calmer and happier.
Ultimately, we want our animals to be happy and enjoy their lives.
Well,
And if
that's
we can
right.
offer them that, if there are things around there like flower essences and that sort of thing, then we have some tools that we can use to help our animals.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And they're such a lovely tool, and I use them a lot with kinesiology as well. So when you're using kinesiology with any body, whether it's a person or an animal, it may naturally guide you to go and look at a very, very specific flower essence as well.
Yeah. Now, I know that kinesiology is probably, well, I'm guessing it's probably quite an in-depth conversation, and it may be a little bit above my head, but in layman's terms, can you talk to us a little bit about kinesiology and why you would use that for an animal? What circumstances would you use that for an animal? Talk to us about kinesiology. That sounds interesting.
I love kinesiology. So early on, I started with naturopathy and flower essences, and then brought the science and art of kinesiology into my practice, and that has been so powerful for humans and animals. So that works by, it's like looking at the energy of the animal and connecting with that. So what we can do is, say somebody has anything, a rabbit, a cat, a dog, a horse, that's not quite doing what you'd expect it to do. You know there's something going on, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Or say you've got a diagnosis and you're not really sure what to do with that diagnosis. We can use what we call just muscle monitoring to connect with subconscious.
Right.
And the idea is that the subconscious has memories of everything, absolutely everything. It also has the answers for how to get back to optimal health. So obviously I'm not going to be muscle monitoring an animal. What I would do is set up what we call like a surrogacy and work through typically the owner.
Right. Okay.
Work with the owner and do muscle monitoring through them, and just see where it guides us to in the body for whether specific energy centers need support, whether nutrition needs to come in, whether flower essence needs to come in, whether we do need to look more at like the herbal medicine side of things, or sometimes it could just be that a very specific body part or area needs a bit of manipulation to free up energy to allow the whole system to work again.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I had a male come in, and his chicken, it was very funny. His chicken had stopped chasing crickets, so she wasn't eating anymore.
Oh.
And we thought, well, let's just have a look at that, you know. So, and I was balancing the chicken through the owner. And
did the owner bring the chicken in, or was this a remote thing?
It was remote. So
right.
The chicken was home, so I got to see a picture of the chicken. And I said, this might sound a bit strange, but I'm being guided to rub a very specific part of your spine. And I went and rubbed him just on the, the upper back or something. And of course, it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know the chicken, and I didn't understand why this had come up. And he just started laughing and laughing. He said, this chicken, all it wants is for me to rub its back all the time.
Oh.
It loves a tickle on the back. Anyway, so we did that, and I said, look, what we're being guided to is that your chicken's going to be fine within 3 days. Could you please message me on Saturday and let me know whether, how your chicken's going? And we did a whole balance around being able to find its food easily and effortlessly. And sure enough, come Saturday, that lovely little chicken was chasing crickets with no problem again. So yeah, it's amazing, some of the stories that come through, and it blows my mind, but it works. And I think this is the subtleties of, like the quantum physics that, is hard to get your head around, with things being in separate places at the same time, and how consciousness affects our reality, and, the energy bodies that we're surrounded with. So it really goes deep into kind of energy side as well.
I think that I find this in my work as well, as you would know, that a lot of people have to see to believe. They have to understand to believe. And it's not always the case. And what I say to people is that if you have one of your animals that is really unwell, that you would try anything. So, don't discount some of these other modes of healing because you can't get your head around it. And of course, working with energy and things like that, a lot of people can't get their head around it, but it's super powerful when you consider that we are energy. We are all energy. Everything is energy. That you just want to sort of transform it back into that place of homeostasis, I guess. I'd love to ask you about the hair analysis and the compatibility testing, and what is that? And again, why would you use that for an animal?
As a naturopath, I'm able to offer compatibility testing, which just takes a sample of hair and gets sent away to a lab at Landsborough in Queensland. And they look again at kind of the energetics of how the energy of that being flows when it's exposed to hundreds of different food types and household products. So I would recommend looking at this if your animal has a rash that won't go away. Really good.
Very common.
Yeah. If it's got digestive issues, so, overly gassy or, struggling to go to the toilet, that type of thing. So you could look at that. And for animals, there's a whole list, and it very specifically looks at different dog or cat foods that are available on the market and which ones might be what they would call incompatible with your animal. And if you're able to move on to just using the compatible foods and exposing them to compatible things, then they should start to clear up.
Okay. So is this available to all animals, or are we just really talking cats and dogs? Can we do guinea pigs and rabbits and snakes? And I mean, snakes don't have hair, so just ignore that one.
Yeah, I wonder how you do it for a snake. Yeah, you can collect saliva if there's no fur or hair as well.
Okay.
But typically you'd be looking at for dogs and cats with the compatibility testing.
Right. And so how is that different to a hair analysis then? What are they reporting on with the hair? Obviously the compatibility is their food, and I think I read somewhere that they do bedding as well, and all sorts of things like that. But why would you have that over a hair analysis?
So because they're both done on hair, this is where it gets a bit confusing for people. So the compatibility is done on hair, but we also do mineral ratio testing, which is done on hair. So you could do what we call a hair mineral analysis. And that's different. You can do this for horses as well, which is really useful. But it just shows where they might be overly excreting a beneficial nutrient like magnesium or calcium, or they may have been exposed to toxic substances like arsenic or lead or mercury, and which would then start interfering with their absorption of beneficial minerals. So that would be useful to look at if they're doing everything right, but they're still struggling. So I would say you've got an animal that, I don't know, maybe you want to breed that animal and it's not able to breed. You might look at using hair mineral analysis just to check there's no toxic metals in their system that might need to be cleared.
Yes, okay. I had a little dog actually not so long ago that was really, really sick, and seizures and vomiting and all those things, was in and out of the vet for a week, not looking very good. But there was so much going on. The neighbour was spraying glyphosate for their weeds on the fence line. They had ordered in a new batch of soil that was full of aflatoxins. The neighbour had been painting their house for a month, and then there was chemicals being used inside their own house. There was just like a chemical storm going on in this tiny little dog, little Maltese Terrier type of thing. And this dog was just overloaded with chemicals and toxins. And fortunately, he's still here, but he was very, very sick. And so I think, you have an animal that's really sick and you can kind of work through it eventually with testing, but there's some of these things are slow to build, aren't they? And they just kind of appear. They might appear as a rash or just this constant skin itching, or I don't know, a whole range of different things that would show up for chemicals and toxins and heavy metals and all that sort of thing.
That's right. Well, we're doing things around the house that are deemed safe for humans, but definitely wouldn't be safe for, babies crawling around the house or dogs or cats sniffing around the place. And there's one thing to have, like a toxic element that we're exposed to and it's within a safe level. But let's say you've got lots of toxins and they're all within a safe level. Your liver is trying to process all of them, and we don't fully understand the burden of multiple toxins at the same time. So it's really important that we keep our animals safe and away from harsh chemicals and pesticides, insecticides where we can.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a bit more of a conversation around that, actually. So with the hair analysis, actually with both of them, that you have to get hair for, let's say a cat and a dog, for the most part, unless they've got no hair at all, are pretty easy to do that. With a horse, actually they're probably not so hard either. How much? Because you need about a tablespoon of hair as close to the skin as possible. Is that right?
That's right. So like for a horse, I would take some from its mane.
Okay.
And you'd only take like the first few centimeters, and
Yeah.
and you would get provided with an envelope which has a measuring tool with it. And once you've got a certain amount of just that top bit, then you can send it off. But it does equate to be about a tablespoon.
Yes. And to do the hair mineral analysis and the compatibility testing, do people need to go to, a holistic vet or a naturopath or someone like that to actually get it processed and get it done? Or can people do this, because you can do everything online, can they organise it through direct to a lab? Especially if someone's remote, like they're in the middle of, a farming area where there's not the availability.
So most labs won't do testing direct to the public. So, but what you'll find is almost all naturopaths have access to this testing facilities, and all holistic vets could get access to it as well. And it would just involve a phone call or an email, and then you would just get all the details you need to send it in the post.
Right.
Then the naturopath could, make sure it's all correctly labeled up and send it onto the lab and get back to you when the results come in.
Yes, because you'd want to have someone that can interpret the information and then prescribe something, I guess, too, at the end of it, wouldn't you? So, Sarah, your website is up on the screen there, and we're going to have that at the end of the show. All that information will be there too. Let people know, can they use your services just in your suburb in Queensland, or are you available globally, or how do people get in touch with you for some of these great things that you do?
I actually see clients from all over the world, which is amazing. So Canada, Vietnam, Germany, all of Australia. So I take virtual consults during the week, and that can all be booked through my website. If you're just looking for just the service of getting some testing done, you can book that through the website as well, and we can go through things virtually.
Excellent. Oh, great. Sarah, so much really valuable information for everybody. There are so many things out there that that people don't know what to do with. So if you're out there and you're having issues with your cat, dog, horse, guinea pig, whatever it is, have a look at some of the alternative areas, or I don't like to say alternative, but some of the other areas that you may be able to get some better results than you are currently having if you're not getting anywhere. So thanks so much, Sarah, for joining me again. It's been great chatting with you. Stick around, everyone. We're going to be right back with the chat box. And tonight we're going to be talking to Mickey, a horse from New Zealand. Learn how to talk to your animals. You ask them a question and you receive an answer to understand their why their anxiety, why the strange behaviour, why the performance problems. When you understand your animals, you can give them what they need. Sign up now for the show special. Receive 10% off the online beginner level animal communication course. The Animals Chat Box is the segment where I get to have a chat with some of our viewers' animals. Now, it's not a verbal conversation like I'd ordinarily have with someone. It's a conversation using the language of animals where we transfer images, words and feelings from one to the other. I can smell on behalf of an animal, I can taste what they taste, hear what they hear, I can feel in their body what they feel. And you can gather a lot of information communicating this way, from behavioural issues to emotional and mental health issues. I can taste their food and I can feel in their body where they're unwell or where they're injured. This is often referred to as animal communication. Right now, we have some animals waiting for us in the chat box. Let's go see who they are and what they've got to say to us today. Mickey's mum Tui in the chat box tonight, everybody, and clearly we don't really have Mickey because just a fraction big to fit in your space that you're at your lounge room or wherever you are, Tui. So, but thanks for sharing him with us tonight, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat to him and seeing where he's at and what he's up to at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit about him? What sort of horse is he, and what's he up to?
He's actually outside playing in the snow at the moment. We got a couple of inches of snow last night, our first snow for the winter. So
nice.
I bred him. He's out of his mother I bred as well. So he's third generation of horse that I've got here. He's an Anglo sport horse, and he's just basically the perfect mother's hack, really. He's super safe, super sane, quiet. I do a bit of dressage and showing with him, and my daughter does the jumping on him. And she's, show jumps.
Sane and quiet. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, he's very much a people's horse. We always joke that he prefers people's company than other horses. He's sort of keeps to himself in the herd. We've got 7 horses, but which is quite handy because he doesn't get attached to anybody else. Makes it very easy when you're away at competitions, but he's the sort of chap that would come in and sit on the couch and drink a cup of tea with you. He just loves people.
You should offer that sometime. I have seen horses inside people's houses.
I'm not sure how that would go down with the husband. But
yeah. I'm sorry, dear. No room for you. How old is he, Tui?
He must be coming up 9.
He is in a really great space at the moment, actually.
He's never going to be, I think, the most athletic horse. He has had a bad accident in the past, and we'll never know quite what he did. He had a rotational fall. So we try and manage him the best we can. He just seems to carry a lot of tension in his body. So, and sometimes you never know if it's physical, if there's actually an actual injury annoying him, or if it's just, a bit of emotional tension.
Yeah.
So we manage that with a lot of body work, and we put an electric massager, and he gets pretty spoilt.
He doesn't think so. He thinks he gets exactly what he deserves. Spoiled. He's like, spoiled? What's spoiled? You can't spoil a good thing. Let's just check in with him and see where he's at. He feels really calm at the moment. He's very content is probably the word I would use. He's just kind of cruising, just sitting back there. How's he acting at the moment? Does he feel quite calm and going well?
Yeah, he has. He's been working really well. He seems really happy with his jumping. We just had a big trip, just a 1,000k return trip, competing on the weekend, and he went awesome.
Yeah.
So he seems to be in a good headspace, because in the past we've chatted to him before, and he was struggling a wee bit. So I think he's definitely turned a corner from that. He's
definitely a completely different horse from the last time that I chatted with him.
Yeah.
He's kind of back in his body, and he's very comfortable, and he's very content. Like you said before, he's quite happy by himself. He's quite independent. Yeah. And he feels he's just kind of showing me standing off to the side a little bit, and he's really okay with that. That's his nature, to be self-sufficient, I guess. He can kind of, for the most part, he can look after himself mentally and emotionally, and he's ready for a rest. Is the season over?
Yeah, they're all about to have a big holiday. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. He's just saying, I'm ready for some downtime now. I just need to stop and gather my thoughts a little bit. So, and just let the body recover. Because I think that last trip that you did was fairly extensive from the point of view of him being in a trailer.
Yes. So huge.
Yeah. That's a lot of, I feel a lot of muscle tension going on there with balancing and just, being on roads and rocking around a little bit, I guess. But that causes quite a bit of fatigue from what he's saying here. It's like it's an unspoken or an unthought of, not for everybody, but for a lot of horse people. He's saying it's an unthought of consideration for competition, So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not in that arena myself, so I'm not really sure how much that is thought about with people that are transporting horses around to different events and things like that. But for him, and I'm just talking for him, he says that takes quite a lot out of him.
Yeah. And that's something me and my daughter are very aware of. We like to think we manage our horses pretty carefully with that. And ideally, had we not had the snow forecast that was coming, we would have taken an extra day to come home. But we made the choice, and it was the right choice because our roads have been closed all night and all day today.
Right.
So we wouldn't have got home. So
yeah. And what he's saying with that is that the coming home part, because he knew that he was coming home to stop and recover. So the coming home part that's okay. It's the effect of a long drive or constant driving and constantly being in a float for the actual competition itself, that it takes a lot out of them for that. So he's saying here that ideally for him, 2 to 3 days minimum to come into an event beforehand. What do you sort of work around with that? Do you have a bit of a plan?
We drove up on Thursday and they did a bit of flat work on the Friday. He had Saturday off and then he competed on the Sunday.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
It is tricky because with life, you know, ideally you'd take a few more days, but you can't always fit that in.
He's showing me the difference in his energy levels, and this is physical energy, just fatigue and that sort of thing. When he comes into an event with a long drive or a short period from getting there to competing, that he's very heavy, like he's quite dense on the ground, and just the lightness in his step is not there.
Yep.
And when he has a couple of extra days, you see that?
Yep. Very aware of that.
Yeah. It's a whole different, what he's showing me here is a whole different horse. It's going from like a sinker in the ocean to just flying and floating. And it's, if competition is important to people out there, it's worth keeping that in mind for, when you're traveling with your horses. And of course you need to be pragmatic because people do work and have other things to do. So, getting there half an hour before is probably not ideal, but if you can do a couple of days, and if you're not able to, and it's worth just testing that out. And I think particularly as you get towards the end of the season too, where they're just starting to get this accumulated fatigue in their body. He's feeling really tired. I'm just getting shown his whole undercarriage. It's like even his organs feel tired, So everything just feels really, it's time for a nap. If I just have a little look at him to see whether he's got anything that he wants to tell you from a physical point of view.
Yeah, because I do have one question.
Right, okay.
He has a click in the hind quarters. I'm not sure if it's the hip or the hock. There's just a click when he walks sometimes that we've never been able to pinpoint.
I'm getting taken into that sort of lower lumbar area, just a bit up from the tail.
Sacroiliac joint.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because that's where he does carry a lot of tension. I do a lot of body work in that area.
Yeah. Yes. It doesn't feel like if you look at it from a human point of view, and we have those clicks in our knees and elbows and things like that, sometimes it feels a little bit like that. It just feels like
that's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds exactly like my ankle that clicks sometimes when I walk in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of wanting to know, like, is it causing him any bother, or is it just a gas in the joint? Because it's there sometimes and other times it's not.
No, I don't feel like it is. If I feel that within my own body on his behalf, I don't even think he notices it. It's just and it's been going for so long now too. It feels like it's all, I would almost go back to birth. So I feel like this may have even happened at that point of birth. I don't feel like that is a problem at all. It's just a click that he doesn't even notice the sound or that it's happening anymore. Just want to have a look at that left hip and then down that leg, and the right hip and down, and just see and down through the spine, and just see if there's anything of note. No, nothing through the spine. There's a little bit of a block of energy through the spine, but that's, I don't see that is a problem either. That would be something that acupuncture or whatever you're doing, actually, something that you do that sorts that out. It's sort of like it's pulling the energy through the spine. So your body work and the things that you do, and
so it's sort of a cranial sacral type of therapy. So it's getting the horse to release the tension in the major joints in their own body and works on the central nervous system. So my side of it is very minimal. It looks like I'm barely touching them, barely doing anything, and that's pretty much what I do. Is I give the horse the triggers to get under their bracing mechanism and focus on a certain part of their body and release the tension themselves. So it's very much about the energy flow through the spine and things like that.
Yes.
And he seems to he tunes in very quickly, and he seems to really enjoy it. So I assume it's very beneficial.
I was just going to say, he receives that from you very well.
Yeah.
He's very, it's almost instant. He releases very easily when you're working on him. So down that left leg, there's some muscle tension into that left hip that feels more like overuse than anything. It feels like more like it's time to have a bit of a rest. And the right hip and down that whole entire leg is fine. He's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, he feels in good shape. He's just tired. It's just a little bit of muscle fatigue, and won't be long before he's ready to rock and roll again.
Yeah.
He also wants to say to you, so this is interesting because I'm not sure when we spoke last time when he was having a few issues. He wants to say to you that he's sorry for being such a problem child and that he knows he made life very difficult for you because he was not at all concerned about anyone else other than himself at that time. And what was going on with Ruby. He was just so in his head about, missing his friend, and anything that you did or said or tried to do with him was just like landing on deaf ears. And he, in hindsight, for him looking back, he just wants to apologize to you for being so difficult.
Oh, that's quite funny, because it did feel like he blocked everything we tried to do to help him. That's and we've definitely, both myself and Billy have, we can tell the days it was like one day he just snapped out of it, and we were like, we've got our old Mickey back. And he's
yes,
amazing.
He needed to go through the process, and a big part of this change was there was that time that you probably wasn't long after we spoke that he met up with Ruby at an event.
Yep, we saw her a couple of times.
Yeah, and it was around that first time where there was just I feel quite a shift in the grief. It's like I just needed to touch in one more time. Yep. I just need to see her one more time.
Yeah, because the next time we saw her, he was just like, oh yeah, there she is. Not, whereas the first time they were just obsessed with each other. It was quite beautiful to watch, but yeah, we were sort of like, is this going to make it worse? Is it going to make it better? And no, he came home and he seemed to just get, brighter within himself every day, sort of thing.
Yes.
And then the next time it was just like, he was like, oh yeah, there she is, and we're going to go home, and he just turned a corner. So, and she's actually moved on to a new home, so she's now a long way from us. So we actually won't see her. The chances of him ever seeing her again are pretty slim, which is quite sad.
Yeah, although while you're saying that, he's like, yeah, whatever, it's okay now. Like he just needed to. Yep. It's like she left and he didn't have time to say goodbye, and there was that. It was just the heart stuff. He just needed one more. He needed one more chat.
Yeah.
And, so not
that
to see
sense.
her now. I don't see any problem with that, and he's just shaking his head, going, "That's okay. but very content, very happy. He's had a good year. He's had his little moment, his little hiccup, he calls it. He's had his little hiccup. And he's not going to be, a gold star champion, but he'll do the best he can. And he does his best to pay attention and listen. And this may make more sense to you. What he's saying here is that sometimes he's focusing on something else and he's not listening. So he's a bit wafty sometimes. Like he can hold his focus and then he just loses it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's a little bit blonde, I think.
Yes.
And then other days he's just amazing. He's just 110% on the job, giving it all. Yeah. I guess he's just so different too. I mean, they're all so different, but the other pony he just gives us 110% every time you're working him or riding him, whereas Mickey just sort of cruises along through life, and I think he knows he'll never leave, so he doesn't ever have to have that pressure to earn his keep, I suppose.
Yeah. He said he's a 70 to 80% kind of guy.
Yeah, he is. Definitely.
Yeah. And he's okay with that. He said, I wasn't born to be a champion. And if I was never going to be because I don't have it in me. He doesn't have that commitment and that consistency to be a full-blown champion. And he's A-okay with that. Loves Billy. Does Billy ride him much?
Yeah, a bit. Not so much at this time of the year, but just with the lack of daylight. But she does the cool stuff with him. She gets to do the jumping and stuff and the go fast. I do the boring stuff with him.
He finds that when Billy's riding him, he finds that that's where he's more up into his 80 to 100%, maybe, where he's actually really interested in what he's doing, and it's quite invigorating. I feel refreshed and I feel, oh, this is interesting. Something fun's about to happen.
Yeah,
so I think he really enjoys that.
I think that's the jumping. They get the adrenaline going, and it's quite different to just the fitness work and the schooling on the flat. So
yes, yeah.
And you see that in the way he goes, because he lifts up to a whole new level.
Yeah, and what I feel with that too is he's got a lot of innate skill that will just carry him through a little bit without too much focus on practice, because he just doesn't like that boring stuff. His whole body just sinks down like, oh my God, we have to do this boring stuff. So that's not much fun for him, but which is why he probably wouldn't ever be your star of the show there.
Yeah. And is he comfortable with his feet at the moment? Because we've been trying to improve the angles of them.
I'm getting taken up the front. I feel lopsided. Back's fine. Have you been having all four have been looked at?
Yeah, and probably made more progress with the back than the front.
Yeah, the back feels good. Yeah,
that's good to know.
The front, and I want to go. Where am I at? I feel the front right just feels like it's collapsing in a little bit. I feel like I'm doing that. I'm going downwards on that inner front right.
Oh yeah,
and that's referring back up into the shoulder.
Yeah,
and to the withers. Nothing major though. It's just a case of tweaking. It's a minor tweak is what I'm hearing. And you're not far off, because those back ones are fine. Let me have a look at that front left. Front left feels good. It's just that front right just feels a little bit like it needs a bit more work.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that has been in balance in the past.
Right.
I think it has had a bit of medial lateral imbalances. So
yeah. And what I'm getting shown here with that too is that he holds a lot of tension in that front right shoulder. So what I feel is it's quite difficult for you to actually get his feet right, because the tension in the shoulder is changing. It's almost like it's changing the length of the leg. Yeah. So I'm either pulling up into that shoulder, or when I'm fully locked in, or I can relax down. And I want to come back to the withers. So there may be something that's kind of...
Yeah, he swings that leg out more when he moves.
Yeah, right.
And
It may
I
be...
do get a lot of tension when I can release a lot of tension through that wither area on that right shoulder.
Yeah. Again, he really receives what you do with him. He really receives that well. And so this is where the problem will be, because when you release that tension, depending on when you do the foot, you do the foot 4 tenths, and it's different to when he's relaxed.
Yeah.
When, so that's going to be probably a tricky one, but it's not far. It's not far off for the moment. What you're doing, being more in balance with the other side and the front to back.
Good.
I'm just coming up here under the neck. Are you having trouble with a bit? I feel like gagging.
Yeah, we've played around with a few different ones. He never seems overly happy.
No.
He had some funny things with his teeth last winter. We got his teeth done in a different way, and he ground his teeth. Like, he seemed really unhappy after having them done.
He's just showing me him just... I'm just gagging here. And it just looks like he's showing me a bit.
Does he need his teeth done again now?
I don't feel so. No. I feel like let's have a little look. No, his teeth feel pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
And his gums. There's some jaw tension down at the back here, because I just see this jaw tension and him lifting his head up, and this kind of gagging. This all feels around having a bit in his mouth and where he has his head. So I guess a part of this is, especially in competition and things like that, or just training, what I see is when his head's level. Does he throw his head around much? Because when I lift my chin up a little bit, I just feel like gagging.
But he's just felt tense instead of, especially like on the weekend, he just never softened in his dressage, and he was just carrying tension through the neck and the head and in the mouth. Yeah,
because from my top of my head all the way down into my chest here, it just feels like, it's rock hard. Just check it out. It just feels like a reaction to a bit, or just being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going straight to the jaw. I feel like I've locked in here, and it's going down here, and then a little bit of mental tension that surrounds that as well.
So I wonder if can he recommend a type of bit that he might prefer? I mean, what we've got him on is considered pretty mild and a pretty kind type of bit, but it may not be the mechanical setup that suits him the best. Or
what does it look like that he's got now?
At the moment, it's got loose rings on the outside, and then there's a little slightly curved bar, and then it's got a roller, it's about an inch wide, a barrel roller, so that sort of rolls across his tongue to allow swallowing and and movement, and it removes the pressure. There's no nutcracker action, so it doesn't have that pinching of the tongue action.
Right.
And it's made out of a sweet iron, so it's actually designed to go warm and produce saliva, and it's designed to help them sort of mouth the bit and swallow and chew and relax. Because ideally, you don't want a dry, still mouth. You actually want them to move. The more they move their tongue, the more it releases the tension through their body and things through the hyoid.
The roller is making me gag.
Right. Okay.
Keep an eye on it and just see. Especially if you're working with this tension.
One that's got an arch that doesn't sit on the tongue. Because I've got one of them we could try. It's got no joins at all. It's just a straight arched.
It'd be worth investigating, checking that out, because that roller, it makes me feel like I've swallowed my own tongue, and I want to lift up and hunch in, and I just feel uncomfortable, and I can't get that comfortable. So everything else around, all the muscles around that part of the body are just being challenged.
He might need a tongue release, but with no nothing on the tongue.
Yeah. Yes. I'm just getting shown freedom there. So there's space.
Yeah.
So there is nothing on the tongue. So, but just play around with it and see what you think. If you can, with your body work and stuff like that, you might notice less tension.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Don't forget to come back next week and see who's in the chat box. Tui, thank you for joining me, and thank you so much for allowing Mickey to not enter the house but enter our space for 20 minutes or so. It's been a pleasure having a little chat to both of you, and stay tuned, everyone. We will be back in just a moment.
Thank you. It's always amazing.
Make your day richer with The Richard Wilmore Show. Meet amazing musicians, talented actors, brilliant authors, hilarious comedians, and the most creative people in entertainment. Download the KP Media TV app to watch on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here tonight. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with all your friends and family that love animals so they can hear what's going on here, and then follow the Instagram and Facebook pages. Thank you for watching. I'm Romy Bueller. I will see you back here, same place, same time, next week.